Hello YouTube, and welcome to the last episode in the yet another full stack app tutorial. And this is where we're going to close it off by having a form where users can add their to-do items. They can then view their to-do list and also remove to-do items from that list. And just before we get stuck in on that, there was a little bit that I haven't finished on the front end as well, which is when someone tries to refresh the page or come back to the page, and they may have logged in, in the last hour or so, we should be able to reuse the token that we stored in the local storage. But at the moment, it just doesn't actually load that item, so we need to add that into our app. I'll just demo that for you now. But if we logged in with admin at todo.com, admin, and then it'll take us to the home page here. We can see some of the logging that we done when we were building out originally. I've got the server running here as well. So yeah, remember the server's running and the front end's running. So we've got the home page here, but if I happen to refresh this page, it will end up you saying you shall not pass because it actually hasn't got the user details. It's effectively become a fresh instance of the app. So we need to pull those in because they are stored in the browser. So to do that, at the top level, so if I just close these so we can start afresh here. So I was just practicing before the video. If we go to the app.tsx in our web app, this is the entry point to the app. So here we can then, just before the app loads, we can check whether there are any details stored in the browser that we want to reinitiate. So to do this, we want to check for a token. So we want to const token equals local storage dot get item token. So let's see if that token was stored within in the browser instance, and we'll do we'll let user equals null. So we'll initialize with a null, and we will then first check if the token is there. If so, we will then decode it just like we did when we were logging in. So we'll then create the user. So if you went to if I do that for the login page, just so you can see, it's the same functionality here. So we're going to decode that token and put that into our application. So we've got user here. We'll do jwt.decode the token, and we're going to define it. And because we trust that we're storing token from a previous instance of our app, that it is of type decoded user token. You could put some other checks in there, make sure that the token wasn't stored from another version of the app, or it was when I'm local deving, I might be using a token from another app that I was developing. So sometimes you get a crossover. So you might want to put some extra checks whether that token does conform to the standard that we expect in this application. But nonetheless, we just say, yep, it's decoded that token here, and then we can then pass these into our app state, our context. So here we go. So if we don't have them, they'll just be set to null as it was before. If they exist, then they'll be put into the app. And actually, if we see, it's refreshed and we are back in that home page. So it's loaded our user who is logged in the previous hour or so. So now I'm logged into the admin. Now we can actually go to that home page and do the bit that was intending for this demo, and that is to create the to-dos form. So we'll do that. Go into the home page, and sorry, I need to increase the size. There we go. Apologies for that. So increase the size of the font there for you. We then want to build out this home page that has a form to submit, and then is able to list items. So the first thing we'll need, let's get some bits into the homepage that we'll need. We'll need access to our app data because that has the client information. So use context app.context, and actually bear with me. Let's just duplicate. We may need to also give the client, the instance, the token. Just remember that as well. So when it tries to get users details, it grabs that information. So we will just create actually up here, we'll create const client equals new client, and actually we can put that at the top, just up here. And just like we said, if there is token, well, we'll go client.token equals token, and then we can pass that client here. Of course, that new instance of client that has no knowledge of the user being logged in. So anyway, so we've imported the app data, and we want to then create a variable to store our to-dos when we download them or access them from the database. And we use a thing called use state in React, because then use state enables us to monitor for changes in that variable, and when React senses a change, or there's a change indicated, then the application or the UI, the user interface, will update. It will refresh the bits that it's clever enough to identify the bits that need to be changed, and then it will rerun those functions to update those parts of the application. And so that object is going to be of type to do, and it's going to be a list, and it's going to be just an empty list to start with. So we've got our app data, because we're going to be using the client, and we're going to be setting to do. The to do is the actual variable, and the set to do is the one that we use to then, if there's any updates to it, we'll set those using that function, and that enables React to highlight, something's changed to that. We will need to change the UI. But this is not importing here. Let's see if I can. There we go. Get that to automatically update. Oops, and then of course there's an extra square. So we'll take that that parentheses out, or bracket. So now we need to. So we've got a number of functions that we'll need. We'll need to be able to post to-dos, get to-dos, remove to-dos, and then a function actually to list them as well, so to render them on the screen. So the first one we'll do is just the post to-do. It's going to be an async function, and it is now going to it's going to be attached to a form, just like our login page. So here, remember we had a form, it's going to be submit, and it's going to go to login. So it's going to follow this syntax of like event.prevent default, do some actions, check they're okay, and then update the UI. So let's just write out these functions that we need, and then we'll start filling them all in. So we'll need to do a post to do, remove to do, and const get to do's. And we'll have a function called list to do's. Right, and there's one other element of React that we'll be implementing as well, called use effect, and this will be able to fire off when that page loads, when it gets rendered on the screen. It'll go, it's been mounted. If it's mounted on, so then we'll want to, first thing we'll do is try and get the to-do list for the user. So to do that, we just then need to use the command use effect. It then accepts a function of what's going to happen. We also accepts on what cases, so we can use effects for when other variables change or things update. Then you might want to do another action when that happens. We just want the square brackets for when the page. That's for when the page is loading. And in that, we want to just call the get to do's function. So actually, we might as well continue with the get to do's function and complete that one. That's as easy as just calling our client and asking, can we list the to-dos for the user? So it's we want the status and the content from the response object. We're going to await the app data.client.todos .get. First, we're going to check if the status equals 200, so it was successful. and then we want to then set to-dos to the content.data. So we're going to trust that the data is valid, it's all facts, and then set our to-do object. With that, we can then also maybe we could go down to the next one. So let's say we've accessed the page for the first time. We go fire off that to-dos list. It's going to get those to-dos, and then we'll want to list them on the screen. So we'll be calling this function to list them on the screen. So this function is going to create that list, and we'll start off, let's call it this, and we're going to start off with an empty array. So it's going to be a list of items that will be rendered to the screen, and we're going to do for const t of to's. So we're going to iterate for those that to do just to do's of to do. Right. Let's keep the variable the same there. We're going to push an item that will render to the screen, and what we're going to do is render a little card object using React Bootstrap, which is our UI toolbox, and that's going to display our to do item. So it's going to be a type card, and we need to import that at the top here. Card from React Bootstrap. And every time when you're creating a list of objects to render, they need a unique key. So we need to give that key, and we're going to just use the ID of the to do item. It could be the index of in that list as well. It's just got to be unique within that list that you create. So that card is going to have a body. Oops. Body. And all of these HTML tags elements are all on that React Bootstrap website. So you can look on that website for more details of what different UI elements it has available to you and how you can construct them. But yeah, this card will have a body, and with it we'll have the text. And this text, of course, is going to be our text from our to-do item. And we will also have, post that body text, we're going to have a button. And we're going to put remove. So this is going to be our remove this specific item. It's going to be the variant. We're going to call it. We're going to make it a danger button, so it'll be all red, just to pre-warn the user that this is a one-time action. You won't be able to go back. And on click, when you click that button, we're going to tell it to remove to do, and we're going to pass it the t.id, the unique the ID of that to do. So there's a couple of errors here, because at the moment this is saying, well, of course, that our to do, I haven't completed the function. This will take an ID of type string, so that should remove that wiggle. And button, of course, needs to be imported as well, so we just need to go up to that Bootstrap, import our button. So that should now all clean up. There we go. Yep, so all those are disappearing. Now, right, so now we need to be able to actually, one check we want to do now is to say if the list length is greater than 0, then we'll return the list. If not, we will return just a tag, sorry, a paragraph tag saying no to-dos here, just in case they haven't loaded, or the user hasn't added any to-dos yet. And now we can actually put that into our rendering of this component, which is at this final return function here. So I've just done a HR for horizontal line, and then I'm going to do list to-dos. Should maybe I could It should load up in a moment. Oh, let's just try and clean that. Maybe it just needs to re-render itself. There we go, on the index page. Oops, there is an error in my rendering. Double checking. It should be okay. Maybe maybe it's this. It's up there for me. No, it should be okay. How bizarre. Right. I will continue on because it should go clean itself up in a moment. I'm not sure why it's missing the home there. No, it's fine, that's fine. Let's double check here. Error called. Oh, just you meant to use an array instead. Maybe that we need to put this in an array then, just to just to clean that up. Just bear with me. This to-dos, just check my functions are the right ones. I believe that's okay. It should clear itself up. I will double check. We'll keep going because as I say, I've got my reference that was working before. There'll be something probably that I haven't completed some of these functions yet. So we'll continue on with creating the post form. So we want to create a form, and this will come from our React Bootstrap. Maybe for now, if we can reload it, we might just exit that one there just to clean up that. There we go. So it does appear there. So it's something to do with my rendering up here of that item. So we can return to that in a second. So we'll do our form here, and this is going to be on submit. We're going to call our post to do function, and this is going to take the event. It's going to say it's of type any, and we'll do event default. To start that function, so we can click it without it trying to submit a form in the traditional sense. And what we need to have in this form is we're going to have a text area. First of all, it's going to have a floating label, and we're going to have it called label equals to do, and we're also going to give it some spacing using MB3. So class name is going to give you a margin at the bottom of 3, and in that we're going to then add the form control, which is going to be our element that is going to be our to do. And it's going to be as a text area. There we go. Right, there we go. Oops. And now it's having another issue with my rendering of this page. Import file, import floating label. It's looking okay. Bizarre. Have I duplicated a variable somewhere? Calling it to do, maybe that's what has happened. Bear with me and I'll come back to you in 2 seconds. Apologies for that. It seems to have all sorted out. I just refreshed the page and it's all corrected itself. So it's probably just building on some of the cache and stuff. It takes some time to update itself. But now we've got our form, and it's existing on here. So we've got that to do, and now we need to add our button. There we go. We've got a button called post. So sorry, I've just added a button variant primary submit for submitting the form. Oops, it needs to be in the form. And that means that we can then actually start submitting in this. So if I put a console log here, button pressed, and we should have, there we go, in our inspector we'll see it posting those messages. So in there we can actually start adding our events, actually posting it to the database. To do that, we will do our typical grab a status from an awaited app.data client call to do .post, and it's going to text is going to equal the event.target to do value. So it's going to get the value of the text area to do down here. And if the status is not equal to 200, then we might want to do an alert to say, oops, something went wrong, and we can return that. Otherwise we can do a get to, but if not, it's all good. Then we'll do the get to do's to retrieve the new ones, because that would have been posted into the database. So that will run that function, update the to-do list, and then it should update our rendering. So I should still, let's say I was unsure why it was not rendering the list of to-dos. So list, let's see what happens when I add that now to the form. So somewhere in my right says, where have I missed a trick here? It's async, that's right. Sorry, that's my bad there. That's going to be the issue, is it? Oh. So he's going to we might have to reload it now. Yep. That's booted up. That should be okay. I haven't closed that tag. There it is. And there we go. So sorry, so this is where the issue was, because I was doing an async there. It was returning a promise of some items. Actually, it needs to be a synchronous function, so the async needs to be removed. My bad, I was just copying and pasting, going too quickly there. And the HR didn't have the closing tag, so it was not closing out the entire form. But now we have our form where it's got to load to post our to do. We should then be able to then list those when we submit one. So let's test a to do, and there we go. So there we go. So we've got our test to do up here, and then we've got our remove button. It's quite large and at the bottom there, so maybe if I paste copy and paste that within to the card body, there we go. There we go. So we've got now a little remove button there, and then when we click that, nothing's going to happen yet because we haven't actually finished our to do function. So to complete this little form, we just need to do status was await app data dot client dot to do dot remove, and we're going to remove that ID if status. We could do same thing here actually. We'll just copy and paste. If the status is not 200, we'll alert them, but if all is good, we'll just get the new to-dos list, which should have the one deleted. So if we try that now, we see that the to-dos, we see it's fired, it's gone off to remove this one. It's then called the to-do list again. We post again, we get the new to-do, and we add another one, a new to-do. We can then start building out our list of to-do items. And that is then, in essence, all the functionalities you need to be connecting to and from the database. You know, adding items and removing items. There's so much more that we could do. We've been improving the, you know, the UI and the layout, but that's all a case of just, you know, modifying these UI elements from React Bootstrap, reordering them maybe because the newest one's at the bottom rather than the top. That's a case of just sorting the items. You may want to do that on the server side, or you may want to do that on the front end. It's entirely up to you. But that's where we'll finish with the tutorial series. We have now a functioning to-do app that is able to store and remove to-do items for our users. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in another tutorial series soon. Bye bye.